Welcome back to the Fulfilled Female Entrepreneur Podcast. It's your host, Cassandra Rosa. I'm a certified coach and healer and intuitive business coach, and the mission behind this podcast is to help you to create a fulfilling life and business. Today, I'm really excited to have Kera Sanchez on the podcast, and she's going to be talking about how grief can help you uncover your purpose. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm so excited to have Kera on today. We connected through someone else that has actually been featured on the podcast. And yeah, I'm just really excited to learn more about your story. So welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I love your vision board behind you, by the way.
Oh,
It's
thank
cool.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I love vision boards. I think they're such a powerful tool, and there's a big reason that everybody talks about them.
Definitely, for sure.
So I'm excited to introduce you to Kera. She's a Chicago-based high school Spanish teacher, wife, and mother of two. Following the unexpected loss of her mother in Italy at 57, Kera embarked on a grief journey, resulting in the creation of the Legacy Letters Guided Journal. This journal enables individuals to craft handwritten legacies of love, advice, and support, ensuring families globally can navigate unforeseen loss with a lasting legacy. Translated into Spanish, the journal led the release to Kera's second published work, No Legacy Lost, a guided memory and grief journal. She pokes fun at her grief journey with relatable memes and dark humor on Instagram and plans to launch a Get Griefy magazine in early 2024.
Yeah.
I really love how you've taken such a difficult thing that a lot of people overcome, being grief, and how you've harnessed it into this beautiful way to allow families to connect and really tap into the legacy, which I think is something that is so powerful for all the generations to be able to go through. So I love that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm excited to hear more about the journey, but this is the Fulfilled Female Entrepreneur Podcast. So I'd love to ask all of my guests, what is fulfillment to you?
Oh my gosh. So for me, I think I still wonder and I still dive in about what that truly means. But I think for right now, the biggest thing that I would connect to fulfillment is this feeling of joy and almost like a flow that just comes out. And for me, that is what I equate more to fulfillment at this point is if it's making me happy, if it's putting a smile on my face, but it's also just feels easy, like it's not forced. I think that that definitely leads to this feeling of fulfillment. So I guess it's evolving, but for right now, that's where I see it.
Yeah, no, I really love that. And I love how you touched on this whole transformation of things being forceful into
Mhm.
creating a state of flow. And I think that that can happen for so many people in their journey, especially when it comes to careers, of kind of forcing themselves to have a career to make money, or showing up in a specific relationship a certain way, or whatever it may be, and creating that flow. So that's such a powerful definition. And I love asking that question because every single answer I've ever got, and this is probably almost 60 episodes deep, has been different, which is so cool. And with all that you do, not only as like a teacher, but with your purpose that you're fulfilling now, what's the most fulfilling part of it all?
I would say like the aspect of community, especially with the grief magazine, I've been able to connect with a lot of other people who have experienced all types of grief. And it's not like it's a competition, but there are definitely people that have lived through far worse experiences than I have. And being able to hear from them, connect with them, form friendships with them, and still watching them continue with joy in life is just been incredibly inspiring. So I think for me, that's been the number one thing is just this idea of creating a network of other people that are sharing this experience with you. And it just gives you more reason to continue forward and truck on. So yeah, community for sure.
Yeah, that's so important. I can think of all the times that I've experienced grief in my life or have people around me that have gone through it. Because at some point, everybody will. There is
Mhm.
the sense of feeling alone or isolation that can be a part of the grieving process. So it's so powerful to be able to come together and hear people's stories and experiencing it together. So I would love to like learn more about your journey and what's led you from experiencing such a terrible thing as grief to harnessing it into this beautiful purpose that you have with your different journals and your magazines. So please, if you feel called to share.
Yeah, so I guess my journey began in the summer of 2022. I had just given birth to my youngest daughter. I was still in the hospital. She was about a month early, so we were in the NICU. And my mom had actually been with me for the birth of my daughter. She was there, and it honestly was a crazy set of circumstances. Basically, long story short, is I had COVID, my husband had COVID. They would not allow my husband into the hospital with me because he had COVID. So my mom was able to tap in and was there for the whole experience. And she was getting ready to leave for a trip that had gotten delayed for 2 years due to COVID. And it was a big group trip of 30 people of all of her friends to Italy and Greece. But sadly, on day 2 or 3 of her trip, I think it was day 2, I received a phone call from my father that she had unexpectedly passed away. And I was still in the hospital. I was literally just feeding my newborn. And it was this extreme feeling of duality. Like, on one hand, I have a brand new addition to our family, and I was feeling so much love and gratefulness and just gratitude for, that although she was a month early, she was healthy, everything was going to be fine. And then on the other hand, this feeling of I'm never going to see my mom again. And so learning how to navigate those two things hand in hand was very difficult for me. And there was honestly several months of just a really dark time for me because I was off of work and all I really could do was just sit and think about it. And it was very hard when you're caring for a newborn. It's almost easy to go into autopilot and simply change the diapers and feed the baby. But then, in the back of your head, that's what you're thinking about, is just life, death, mortality, never seeing a family member again. And it became this rumination. And after a while, I realized that there was so many conversations that my mom and I didn't get to have. And I also realized that, like in The Lion King, it's the circle of life that, one day I'm going to grow older. My daughters will continue to grow into young women, and this cycle is going to continue. I'm going to leave them, and they're going to be forced to live life without a mom. And that was heartbreaking to think about, but it's almost important to think about because you want to consider all of the things that you would want to leave to your children or to your friends, to your nieces, to your nephews, to your grandchildren, whoever. And so that's kind of where the journal came from. The idea for the journal is, what are all the conversations that I wish I still had with my mom? And what are the messages that I would want to leave to my children?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I just used my skills that I've, had for years as a teacher. And I broke all of these complex, serious topics down into small bite-sized pieces that I knew would be manageable and wouldn't be overwhelming for people. And I did try to include almost like a playful element to it because I didn't want it to be too dark. I didn't want it to be too serious. So there's lots of pictures and illustrations and things like that to kind of get the mind turning and inspire people to leave behind different types of messages. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started, was with the journals. And initially I was using Instagram as a platform to advertise for the journals, but I slowly realized that um, it helped me process and understand what I was going through by sharing my experiences with grief online. And so, throughout the months, it kind of just evolved to more of a community. I would have Instagram lives with other people who are grieving. I also in the process made conversation cards, remembrance cards. And so on my Instagram live, I would interview all of these different people who have also done something remarkable out of their grief, but then also honor the people that they had lost. And in a lot of these conversations, all of the common threads between everyone was that creativity helped them process what they were going through. So then from there, I had this idea of just we need to create a magazine. We need to create something that highlights and amplifies the grief experience because yes, grief is messy, grief is scary, it's not fun. There's so many negative things that come along with grief, but there's some beautiful things that come out of grief as well. And I feel like society is just starting to understand that. I think this new like buzzword that's getting pushed around is like the post traumatic growth. And while yes, we do carry around some very traumatic things with us, we also grow too in that. And that's a choice. And I think that if we encourage people to make that choice, a lot of the negative experiences that we go through in life will include some happiness and just zest for life if, we encourage that. So I guess that's the goal of the magazine. So that's kind of how it all evolved and how it all got braided together.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I first want to say I'm really sorry to hear about your mom, but I really love how you took that experience and your growth and you showed up with so much authenticity and vulnerability. Like I've went through your Instagram, I've seen the way you've spoken about it, and you can just feel the love that you're sharing from straight from your heart, and you can feel her presence with you. I didn't know her personally, but you can just kind of feel that supportive energy coming through in all your beautiful posts. And it's just so powerful because I think there's grief has come up a lot for people the past few years. And I think now more than ever, it's such a powerful vehicle with all the different ways that you've done it with Instagram, with your journals, with your magazine that is going to be coming out soon. That's so powerful. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. And I know that it started by you sharing on social media. That's how all these pieces started to come together. But if someone is through the process of grief, and maybe I don't want to say that you're at the tail end of it, but you're at this part where you're getting some relief and
Hmm.
you're having some curiosity of what could be next and how you can transmute this experience. This is something that can help people. What would you say to someone that's at that stage of their grieving process?
I would say that that's 100% possible that you can turn it into something if you want to. But it's also something that you don't have to feel pressure on yourself to do as well. Because, I think a lot of times there is a pressure out there to turn negatives into a positive. And for me, that worked, but that's not always going to work for anyone. But if you feel called to do so, I would say get inspired. And I like how you started that. They're getting curious about that. Get curious. Look at what other people have done. And just because there's something maybe similar that you could do out there that already exists, it doesn't mean that the market is like saturated, right? It means that you can put your own twist on it and yeah, there's room for everyone at the table. So if that's something that you feel called to do, I would definitely just look and see what else is out there and connect with other people who have done similar things because even just having conversations with those who have, I think would spark something in you as well. So I think just connecting and seeing what else is out there is really important.
Yeah, being in this whole energy of possibility,
For
be a
sure.
catalyst for inspiration. And do you want to speak to the point, that like pivotal point where you made that shift of, you know what, I do want to share about this on social media, or I do want to take this whole concept of having these letters and documenting these moments in time for the future generation. What was it that made you lean into that curiosity and explore that?
So with just the point of realizing I wanted to create the journal,
Mhm.
that was almost, I want to say like a download. It was just like this intuitive hit that came to me one day. It was right around February of last year, like right around Valentine's Day that the idea came to me. And I was actually home alone that day. My husband was gone. He was taking a test for some certification he needed at work. And my daughters were both taking a nap. And I had this idea come to me and I opened up my computer and just like it flowed out. I had easily half of the prompts that I used for the journal come to me in that day. And it was almost just it it felt like I had to take action on it immediately. But when it came to sharing my journey and things like that, that took some time. Because I started the Instagram initially just to promote the journals. And I was like, this is just going to be for journals. It's not going to include really anything about me or my journey. I really just wanted it to be about the journals. And after a while, I felt like I was hiding who I was from the people that were interested in buying the journal. And I feel like, if anything, me showing up authentically, truly who I am, which is like this bright, bubbly, energetic person, that's when I felt like I was more aligned with what I was supposed to be doing with the journals. And for me, it gave me some relief as well, because that's just how I cope with things, is with humor and with laughter. And I know that I inherited that from my mom. My mom was that type of person as well. And so it just almost felt like it was a way that I could also maintain a connection with my mom, because I know that's exactly how she would have handled it as well. So it does come with time, but there are also those like pivotal moments, right? Where you realize like this is what you need to do. But um yeah, it was very much, this is what I need to do when it comes to the journals. And then aha moment later of like how I decided I wanted to present the journals and my story to the world of social media. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I love how you trusted the timing of the unfolding, and it was like one step at a time. And just like when you're going through grief, you take that one step at a time approach to do the little things, to be able to do the bigger things while you're processing through it. So I love how you connected through that. And for the legacy journals, how would someone integrate that into their life of starting to uncover, the answers to these questions and to write these letters? What do you feel like is the best environment to be able to cultivate that experience within your family?
So for me, I personally feel like if someone purchases one,
Mhm.
they just open it and just start flipping through the pages and just kind of see what speaks to them
Mhm.
in the moment, only
Mhm.
because the messages are so broad, and they're meant to fulfill someone for their entire life. So it's very possible that you are living through an experience right now that is almost a good life lesson that you would like to share to your loved one. So just by kind
Mhm.
of flipping through it and seeing what applies to you in the moment, I think would be a good place to start. And also just acclimating yourself to what's in there, because you could 2 or 3 months from now be living through an experience. You're like, like that's a good idea to put in the journal. But I definitely don't think that people should put pressure on themselves to fill it out within a set time frame. I think it's something that they just purchase and they know it's there. And when they feel called to add information to it, to do it. Just because it's one of those things that if you don't start it, you never will.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be something that like, oh my gosh, I need to get this done in the next month. Like I think it's like a lifelong evolving thing. And I think it would be really cool. I have the lens of, like, I'm a mom of two little girls, right? And so for me, my perspective is, as they're growing up and as we're living life together, I want to include specific pieces of our life and the memories that we've shared in the journal. And I want it to evolve. So like my voice changes as I mature and as I get older and as I grow in who we are as people. So yeah, I just feel like it's almost like a memory book, or a
Mhm.
a photo album, but for your thoughts, right? So
Love
that's what, yeah.
Love that. I love that it's not a cover to cover experiences as things come in life, documenting it and almost making like a scrapbook of all
Yeah.
the different ideas, which I love. And I think that would be so powerful, because looking at people that I've lost, and even my grandmother, she has dementia and she's had it for such a long time. And, reflecting on my family being like, oh, I wish we wrote down the recipes, or like how she did certain things, you know what I mean? So I could see it being so beneficial and be like, I wish I had this, earlier in time. So, with that being said, as you're writing down these lessons for your children, what would be like the lessons that you would write in the journal that you feel like people that are going through the same experience as you this whole grief into purpose, what would be some tangible takeaways or like 3 points, tips that you would give them to navigate the journey that you've gone through?
Yeah. I would say initially grief completely consumes you and it takes over every ounce of your being. And there was actually like a visualization, like metaphor, that I came across, and I wish I could give somebody credit for it. If I remember who it is later, I'll definitely send you a message about it. But basically, they explained grief as a bookshelf, and initially, when you experience a loss, that the book that you have on your bookshelf is a big, thick, heavy black book that's just like taking over all of the space on your bookshelf, and everything else fell off.
Mm,
And that's all you can focus on is just that book. And over the course of time, you are able to put other books back on the bookshelf, and you're able to put back up your memory books, and you're able to put up like all of your trinkets and all of the little things throughout life that you collect. And that the grief book that you've accumulated, it will always sit upon your bookshelf, but other things will start to surround it as well. And I think that that's like a really important lesson for people who are experiencing grief for the first time or experiencing a major loss for the first time, is that when I first found out about my mom, my initial thought was, this hurts so bad and I want the pain to go away. But then I thought, if I want the pain to go away, that means that I'm forgetting about my mom and how much I love her. And you don't want that either. And so I feel like that visualization or that metaphor is just so powerful because it reminds you that while the grief will always reside in your body and it's something that you're always going to carry around, you will also be able to find things that bring you joy again. And you will also just feel happiness and love and excitement. Like there's so many other parts of life that will come back into your life. So I feel like that's like the number one thing I would tell anyone that's going through grief. Um, Additionally, I would say this concept of community is so important, and trying to find other people who have lived through a similar loss. And that doesn't necessarily mean that like you're directly connecting with them, but like if you are able to find, I know that for me, like it was my mom that I lost, right? And so there's mother loss groups, or there's mother loss um, people who have done major work about that specific loss. And it was important for me to see what they had to say and also kind of see what they did with their grief, and then also still see them with a smile on their face. That was something that like I really needed in the moment.
mm,
Um, and the third thing is I think you still have to be true to who you are at your core. Grief does change you, and I think you have every right to allow it to consume you for a certain amount of time. But after a while, you do need to go back to the things that still make you happy, and you still deserve to smile and pursue your dreams and all of that stuff. I think sometimes we have survivor guilt, or you feel guilty for still pursuing your passions and your dreams. You're like, how can I do that when my loved one isn't here? But
mm.
if you really think about it, if you happen to pass away, you wouldn't want all of your loved ones to give up on what they wanted out of their life either. So I think it's important to just connect back to, although you're changed, connect back to who you were before the loss and try to, salvage what you can and still bring that with you when you move forward.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I love that. That's so powerful, the messages. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. And I would love to open up the floor if you want to share with the audience where they can pick up your journals and a little bit about your magazine and where
Yeah.
they can get a copy or be a part of
Check.
it. They've also gone through their grief story.
Yeah. So the Legacy Letters Journal, that's available on Amazon. And you can just search for Legacy Letters Journal, or I also have it translated into Spanish, Cartas de Legado. And then I have a new release. It's No Legacy Lost, and that one serves more as like a memory or a grief journal. So although I cannot um, pick specifically things that my mom said to me, I can fill in pieces of like what she would have said, or things that I specific pieces of my mom, like quirky things about my mom that I remember that I would like to write down. Um, for me, it was important because unfortunately, my daughters are growing up without my mom or my mother-in-law, so they have zero grandmas. And so I really felt like it was important to create a memory book or a memory journal, so that way later in life, if they wanted to learn more about their grandmas, they could open up a book and just read things about them. So that's what the purpose of that journal is. And that one, again, No Legacy Lost, is also on Amazon. To learn more about the journals, legacylettersjournal.com. On Instagram, I'm at Legacy Letters Journal. And then the grief magazine, Get Griefy, that I just created a website for that. It's still kind of in the works, but it's getgriefymagazine.com, and then Instagram at getgriefymagazine. So
Amazing. We have all the different links, and I'm going to leave them in this video or in the show notes for the podcast. Is there anything you want to speak about when it comes to the magazine before we conclude our conversation?
yeah, so the magazine aims to launch February 1st. If I get it done earlier than that, I would love to push it out to subscribers first. But yeah, it's supposed to inspire people to live boldly, happily, joyfully after loss. Lots of different interviews. There's people who submitted work. There's a community section. So like if you are grieving and you feel called to do so, there's plenty of space for you to include artwork, photography, poetry, all of that kind of good stuff. And yeah, I just hope it grows quick and it reaches as many people as possible. So if people, once this episode airs, hopefully the magazine will be out. So if you check it out, just share it with anyone that you think would enjoy reading stories about people living life after loss, because I really hope it inspires people to be happy still. So
I know it will. Thank you for sharing that. And I must have read your mind. I was going to say grief is something that everyone goes through. And if you are listening to this episode and you feel like, hey, at this moment in time, this isn't top of mind in my experience right now, but you know people that are going through this, share this episode, share the links, share the magazine, so that there can be this sense of community and people can thrive through the grieving process. And as they get to the other side of it, hopefully there'll be people that will stand into their purpose and help people as well.
yeah,
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been so beautiful to hear your story and just see you light up as you share your purpose. So thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I'll upload a new video on Thursday. See you in the next one. Bye.